The Dragonflight version of Uldaman, Legacy of Tyr, is now part of the Season 2 Mythic Plus pool. My name is Naguura, and in this video I will go over the most important mechanics to watch out for in this dungeon. At the beginning you have to deal with the Geomancer's Chain Lightning. Make sure you assign an interrupt for that ability to avoid group damage. Additionally, the Berserkers cast an Enrage, buffing every mob around them with 20% damage done and damage taken. You can make use of the extra damage taken, but be careful and don't pull too much to not get overwhelmed by the extra incoming damage. There are also a lot of basilisks in this area. They cast Spiked Carapace, buffing themselves with a reflective damage magic buff. You can either interrupt their cast or dispel the buff afterwards with an offensive purge. The first boss you will encounter are the Lost Dwarves, Olaf, Balog, and Eric. During this encounter you have to dodge a lot of ground effects, and sometimes a random player gets targeted by ricocheting shield. Run away from the group and save a defensive cooldown for it if possible. Once in a while Olaf will start channeling Defensive Bulwark. Interrupt this cast to prevent the 75% damage reduction on the dwarves. If any of the dwarves reaches full energy or drops low health, they will jump onto the longboat and fire searing cannon fire at players' locations. To avoid filling the room with fire early, you can stack up your group to reduce the area of denial. Once you defeat the dwarves, you can make your way to Bromach. You can also decide to fight Bromach first and do the dwarves second if that works out better for your group. Bromach spawns adds throughout the boss fight. Every wave has 1 Geomancer and 3 Ambushers. The Geomancer is a caster and has to be interrupted to stack them up, and the Ambushers are melee mobs and shouldn't cause too much trouble. The boss will then spawn a Quaking Totem, pulsing AoE damage on the group until defeated. Additionally, the totem will also stun all the adds as well as the boss if they are inside the circle indicator when the totem gets destroyed. Melee focus the boss here, but instantly switch to the totems as soon as they spawn and finish off the adds as they get stunned by the totem and take 200% increased damage. After defeating Bromach, you can make your way to the third boss. You will encounter some enemies on the way that are mostly dangerous for your tank. The Custodians get a stacking damage increase and apply a bleed effect to the Argo target, so be prepared for some heavy tank damage. Up next is Sentinel Talondras. The most important ability in this fight is her Ancient Dynamo. She will buff herself with 2 stacks of Inexorable. Stunning her while she has the buff will not CC her, but instead remove one of the stacks. Later on she will cast Titanic Empowerment, a big Enrage buff, and you will have to stun her to prevent the ability from going off. To do this, you have to stun her twice to remove her Inexorable stacks, and then stun her a 3rd time during the Titanic Empowerment cast. You can use the 3 resonating orbs that spawn on 2 players and on 1 random location close to the boss to stun her. If the orbs got dropped in a bad location or a player accidentally walks into an orb, then you can use a player stun instead if you have specced into it. But keep in mind that she also buffs herself with a 10% damage increase each time she successfully gets stunned. So only stun her if necessary to interrupt Titanic Empowerment. Once you defeat Talondras, you can move on towards Emberon, the 4th boss of the dungeon. On your way there, you have to watch out for the Earthen Weaver's casting Hail of Stone, which is a channeled AoE damage ability similar to Fan of Knives, and it can only be disrupted. Additionally, Earthen Warders will attempt to apply a Curse of Stone on a random player. If not interrupted or dispelled, it will eventually stun the player and spawn a swirly underneath them, making it undodgeable and possibly lethal. Healers have to watch out for Runic Protectors because they cast a group-wide AoE which can't be interrupted. As well as Fissering Slam, doing damage and spawning petals beneath every player. Entering a cave, you will see skittering crawlers leaping on random players while the Cavern Seekers cast Sonic Burst. This should be interrupted as it does AoE damage and also interrupts spellcasts close to the bats. Once you have cleared your way through the cave, you will enter a circular room with stone golems on the side and Emberon in the middle. At the start of the fight, he will activate some golems and they will continuously shoot fire orbs towards players, so keep dodging them. Emberon will also put fire circles on each player, dealing damage and forcing you to spread out. Using defensive CDs for this ability would be a good idea. At maximum energy, the boss will become immune. He will move into the middle and cut the room in half with a fire beam. To end the phase, you will have to defeat all the activated golems that are now attackable. Once the golems are finished off, you can go back to attacking the boss and end the encounter. Next up are a few enemies you fought before, and in addition you should watch out for the Earthen Guardian's Blessing of Tyr. They create a big bubble buffing enemies inside it. Your tank should try to kite mobs out of the bubble immediately, because it cannot be interrupted. The Ebonstone Golems are important for your healer again because they cast Thunderous Clap, dealing AoE damage to your whole group. And lastly, there are infinite Time Reavers applying stolen time to players and themselves. On the players, it will reduce their haste, stacking up periodically, while the Time Reavers gain haste. The debuff is a magic effect and can be dispelled, but the only way to prevent the enemies from applying the stacks is stunning them. During a stun, they will not refresh the debuff, so you can potentially reset the stacks with a well-timed stun. The last boss of the dungeon is Chrono-Lord Deios. There's a lot of group damage during this encounter. Time Sync is a magic debuff being applied to random players doing ticking damage, and Wing Buffet is an AoE and a knockback simultaneously. Periodically, the boss will spawn temporal zones on the ground. If you stand in them during his normal phase, you will get a 30% haste reduction. But if you stand in a temporal zone during Rewind Time Flow, you gain a 50% haste buff, so make sure to use them. You don't take any damage from standing in the zone, so don't worry about that, but the boss does group-wide damage while channeling the Rewind. You can choose to save your offensive cooldowns for the first Rewind to stack the haste buff with any other CDs you have to potentially increase your damage by a lot. After the Rewind, the boss goes back to the normal phase and it repeats the cycle throughout the fight. Once you finish off Chrono-Lord Deios, you're done with the dungeon and can collect your loot. We hope you have enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on other Mythic Plus guides. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in Season 2.